So we have 4 respondents. I'm going to suggest we take the first one and have a short break. The respondents are 20 minutes each, up to 15 minutes for the response and 5 minutes for Hannah to reply. So our first is Stanley Klein. Stan is professor of vision science and neuroscience at UC Berkeley School of Computing. He has degrees in physics, in Caltech, and Brandeis, his PhD. The PhD was on the topic of UC Berkeley proton spectra. He switched to vision science in 1974 with his back at Stanford and Berkeley. His work experience included being entangled with the, quote, hippies who saved physics. Stan, I'm based all around. I'd like to meet some of your hippies who saved physics.
Well, they're around.
Okay. From that experience, Stan's car has had the California license plate throughout. You'll tell us about that. It's wonderful. In the past 10 years, he has had a major focus on the science of consciousness and the science arena, which concerns and most people in the public space. He is on the governing council of the University on Religion and Science Matters. Let's welcome Stan for your report. I didn't know you were going to read that. I would have.
Okay, this is working. Good. The potential. So I'm going to first comment on some of the things that Hava said that will introduce what I'm talking about. So you mentioned that one of your articles on transhumanism was in Zygon.
Yes.
I happen to be a member of IRIS, the Institute on Religion and Age of Science, of which you're on before. And indeed, so that's what I was looking at. And the title of her Zygon article is Transhumanism as a Secular Faith. And that's a fantastic title. It's incredibly relevant to CTNS, to the kinds of things that we're interested in, because the world, going to regular churches is decreasing, and people are becoming more secular, and they're needing some of the things that religion had provided, and so they're coming up with transhumanism. And even the Abrahamics, well, you'll see it even in one of my slides, the Rabbi Sachs slide. There's differences between Abrahamic religions about having an afterlife, but even the Hindus have anyway. So the notion reincarnations. So this is deeply. There's a need for wanting to live in some way, one soul or one something, to live on. And the transhumanists are for the secular world are maybe providing that deep need, and the religion, how our religions can reach the secular people, which they're not. But this is what the topic that I'll be interested in talking about. Okay, so here's the overview of my talk. It's going to have 6 parts, and the first part is just to give the view from science. The typical CTNS, the people who come here are more skilled or knowledgeable about religion, and so I would like to tell you a bit about what science has to say and how what the fundamentals of science are. So let me show you my science slide. How many people know? This is what they taught us in high school. Periodic table. This is something called chemistry, that there's all these chemicals, and they do wonderful things. Carbon, you make living things out of carbon. So the periodic table used to be taught. I don't know if it's still taught in high schools, because it's been replaced. There was something like, I don't know, this goes, how many people know where's this berkelium? Anyway, there's plutonium. Anyway, there's even this, is he fermium?
There it is, 97.
90, oh yeah, they're berkelium. Okay. So we are on the map, but all of that is obsolete because it's been replaced. Instead of having 100 of these, actually it's more than 100, they're not all in the table, it's been replaced with 18 So this is the 18, is now called the standard model, and from these 18 things, you can do cosmology, you can make big bangs, you can do everything. So that's science. But for our purposes of transhumanism, all you need are 4 of these, and then you also need the graviton. But you need the electron, that's very important. You need the photon, very important. And then you need the up and down quarks, because they make protons, they make the nucleus, and from those things, and the graviton, you can, this is a very pretty slide. This is what I just said. There's the electron, the proton, and here's the up and down quarks. So from these 4 things, and the graviton, you can do everything. You can make neurons, you can make brains, you can do everything. So that's my science story. Science has gotten simple in some, the equations are complicated, but they're not that Feynman. Oh, those 4 is called QED. So if anybody wants to understand the deepest truths of science, there's a book by Feynman called QED, Quantum Molecular Dynamics, that is just about those 4 things. And from those 4, we believe that brains and neurons and consciousness and all of that stuff, religion, can be made. So I'm going to be taking this contrary. So anyway, so I just wanted to give you the other view. So what the duality is all about is that this ain't enough, because we also have desires on the human level, and this is where transhumanism comes in. We do have needs of having, well, my immortality. I believe in immortality, by the way. I'm going to be resurrected. And this is my parents believe that. They were the revolutionaries in the 1920s and 30s.
Yeah. We talked about them last night.
Yeah, we talked last night, that's right. And they believe that the world is going to get better. And I believe that. It might take 200 years. But when there is income inequality, has been eradicated, all of those things, I got teary, I don't want to say this, I will be reborn. When there is peace and justice, that will be my resurrection. So we have this need for a resurrection, for religion. So there is a place, but we have to be aware that it's complicated. So let me show you the next slide. It's still the Science and Religion, and this is a book that so here's my book. We talked about this guy also last night. This is Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. He was the head of the England. England is organized by the Jewish community. Anyway, he was the chief rabbi. It's called The Great Partnership, God, Science, and the Search for Meaning. And it's a fantastic, for me, it spoke to me, a secular Jew. It was transformative, the kinds of things that he says. On page 190, he points out in the Jewish tradition what is this book? What is in the Old Testament? So let me tell you about the Old Testament. There's no mention of immortality. There is in the Old Testament, the big Old Testament, not just the 5 books, but you'll find some stories with some resurrection kinds of thought in the later evolved. But the basic Jewish tradition does not have a focus on the afterlife. That's not it's not really part of the Old Testament. And so the Christian, when they came along with the Greek, and Islam has maybe more of a focus. There's some sort of a need for having some sort of immortality, for having not just dying, and that's what I was saying initially. But so this little story of how can religion evolve. Now, I think CTNS, in that last little thing on my autobiography, it said something about connecting CTNS, and one of my goals is to connect CTNS, to connect science and religion, the religion that's going on, the very high quality religion that goes on here at GTU, and the science that's the highest quality also of the world, what's going on at Berkeley. We need to be befriend each other and talk more. Okay, so this is transhumanism. Maybe I'm just repeating myself. Okay. So this I just said about how this paper, the title of it was Transhumanism as a Secular Faith. That's precisely, we need faith. We need to have a secular faith, and transhumanism, that's the title of your Zygon thing. And also Brian Greene, we'll maybe be hearing more about, in your paper you cover the tensions of how religion deals with life extension. So we will probably be hearing more about that. These are important reasons why transhumanism is on the table. And now for the two most dramatic parts of my talk. Part number one is right, and I kind of introduced it because in the last words. Part number one is this shocking thing that we, right here, right now, you are sitting in the world's center for where science and religion can really come together. Because CTNS, now with the Ayala, there's a lot of science religion going on right here, CTNS. There's only one place where there's competition, and I think in the world, of where the religion folks and the science folks, the top people can talk together. The only competition that I know of is the same journal, Zygon, where you publish. That's in Chicago. This is organized in Chicago. It's also part of the Institute on Religion, IRIS, Institute of Religion and Age of Science. But the Chicago people have more connections between the Lutheran or the schools of theology and the university. It ain't easy, but we can do it. So that's part of my ambitious talk, number one. Part two is how can we deal with the future of humans? How can we deal with the future of humans? I forgot that I already had a slide. Okay, we need to connect CTNS with used to be. And the radical item number two is how can some of the positive visions of transhumanism be realized? And here is again my duality. There's a lot of bad things that one can say about transhumanism. There must be some good things because it is surviving. And one of them is 3 minutes. Good. I'd like to make a wild proposal for transhumanism. Oh, first of all, I forgot to say one thing, is that on the topic of enhancement, so this is the topic of enhancement. So I'm going to be talking about how many mutations are wealthy people with CRISPR, how many mutations, this is 10. Anyway, how many mutations are we going to get on? But before that, I have to admit, on the issue of, what was that word, engineered, what would be, where did I say it? I had it right down. The enhancements, the things, I work in a department that's into the enhancement business. So, eyeglasses.
Yeah.
I am, you're wearing them also? Oh, my God.
Mind you, they claim transhumanism.
And even lenses, intraocular lenses.
Yes.
Operated, so. But the main part is how many, I think, and this is serious now, we have CRISPR, we have new technology of biological engineering, of making our children, we can change the genetics in the sperm or in the egg cell. We can change the genetics of what it's going to be the next baby. So if you're in a family that has a DNA problem, if you've got a genetic disease, you can prevent your children. But it might be that, and in fact I'm going to guarantee, I'm not sure it's going to be in our lifetime, but there's going to be some countries, I don't think it's going to be China, but it's going to be some little countries that are going to allow these genetic mutations for their children, for our children, to pick our children, to be enhanced. It's a little bit genetic, it's a little bit eugenics. The Nazis didn't do a good job on that, didn't make it popular. But that is going to happen, and my claim, and this is my last minute, my firm belief is that this is going to happen maybe in 50 years, that we will, the rich people will be able to go to some country so that their children can be genetically engineered. It is my opinion that there has to be a world treaty that disallows rich people from having that benefit. It should be that every single person in the world should have that ability to select a few mutations of their choosing, if they want to have an athlete or somebody, or this or that. But there might be a gene for social niceness, how to be a better citizen, how to make the world better, how to not be so angry at each other that we have to kill the other. There'll be that gene that's discovered. So we may want to have a little bit of this kind of transhumanist belief of changing our future human, but I think it has to be absolutely democratic, and it shouldn't just be wealth. The very last slide is that after we're done with this, there will be some sort of a Charles Towns event, an award or something. And now I'm going back to my very first thing. I've been coming to Bob's incredible meetings in this room over the last 10 years, at least, I think. Charlie, I'm going to maybe become a little emotional again. Charlie and I were the only faculty from UC that were here. That has to change. We have to figure out how to get more Charlies, how to get the Charlies across the street to be aware of the sophistication of what's going on in this room. And they're not aware of that, and that has to change. I just have this word, free will. I don't think I've ever been to a CTNS meeting when Charlie didn't bring up the topic of free will. We have free will. I have free will. And is the cyborg, is the transhuman machinery going to give free will? Anyway, I think that religion is here to stay. We need to figure out how to get modern religion modernized so it can communicate to the people across the street. CTNS can do it. And thank you.
Okay, sure. So, can I stay here? Or do you want me to be there?
Whatever you like.
Okay. So, let me see. Let me begin with one comment of historical, since I'm an intellectual historian. So it's not. I would suggest to you that it's not accurate to say that Judaism does not have belief in immortality. It's definitely from rabbinic Judaism. The Bible doesn't have belief in immortality. That's true. But rabbinic Judaism, all of medieval philosophy. Of course, Kabbalah, Hasidism, it's filled with a discourse. Yeah. So in my book, my book on happiness and prima Judaism actually tells that kind of complex story, but it's very common among Jews to say that Jews don't believe in the afterlife. It's actually not.
Well, the Old Testament, I was just referring to the Old Testament.
Yeah, in the Bible, Hebrew Bible, indeed, there is no belief in immortality. Now, in terms of the bridge between CTNS and Berkeley, the 3 days I've been here, I actually got the same impression that it's amazing to me how this operation, and maybe it has something to do with the geography of the space, right? That wherever you are, vis-a-vis the conglomerate called UC Berkeley, you're kind of on the side. And somehow it's possible to be in Berkeley without paying attention to what's going on here because you are in the corner, in the northwest corner of this complex. But I don't think that it's just about that. Maybe what's at stake here is indeed what you're indicating, that there is a failure by religious committed people to explain themselves in a way that secularist people can take them seriously. And on the other hand, I also think that there is arrogance and hubris on the part of the secularists to basically say, if you're a religious believer, then you must be an idiot. Well, neither position, obviously, is correct. So what we need to do, and that's why I'm engaged in the science and religion dialogue, we need to improve the conversation within those communities. And for me, the answer is always historical. I'm an intellectual historian. We cannot understand culture without science and religion. And the end is the key issue. It's not the or, it's the end. So we need to continue to do this thing.
I fully agree.
Yeah, so as for the CRISPR, Ted, I believe that we're in a program at the University of Utah, right? In,
Yes.
what is it, October 6th or something?
Yes.
On the new technology of CRISPR and human suffering. So I don't know yet what I'm going to say, but I saw you. I thought that Mark Richardson is also going to be there, and I think we need to take a good look at it. I don't know that we know enough to say about it, but clearly I'll just tell you a story. When I heard a woman, it was in a Jewish conference on these issues of biotechnology, a woman whose 2 of her 4 children had Tay-Sachs disease. And it's horrible. It's a horrible disease. So obviously, when this woman told us the story how to deal with her children and how some of them already died, you say, of course, we need to apply technology to deal with that. But is that the end of the story about what does it mean to be human? So yes, the technology, biotechnology offers us ways to deal with all sorts of diseases and genetic limitations, and we can do something with it, but there's a big difference between that and saying that we should become a super intelligent. That's a huge gap between those two things. So yes, biotechnology can be mastered in order to deal with human suffering and diseases and so forth. That's the therapeutic dimension of biotechnology, which I'm for, but I'm against this social imaginary, this imagination that, oh, we do it and then we will all be happy and live forever after. As what? As a super intelligent machine? I don't want to be Kobe. I want to be a human being. Kobe is the name that Ted Shu gave to this super intelligent. Okay? I don't want to be Kobe. I want to go back to who I am. And why are we supposed to be something else? The beauty is to be who we are. So that was
My main thing was that it should be limited to not keep, so that the wealth is eliminated from the CRISPR thing. Go for it.
5-minute break and we'll reconvene for 3 more.